Drew Bledsoe, a talented quarterback who accomplished things that most players never do. Yet unfairly, he's universally known for what happened to him on the worst day of his life. A day that took his job away from him, and a day where he nearly lost his life. So after a year where Tom Brady raised the Lombardi Trophy in a different jersey for the first time, and the Patriots had their first starting quarterback change since Brady took over in 2001, it makes sense to go back and examine the career of Brady's predecessor. Of course, we'll also go over what Bledsoe has been up to since the day he retired from playing, and his present-day thoughts on Brady's career. In 1993, the Patriots were coming off a 2-14 season. They were bringing in their third head coach in 4 years. This was a franchise teetering on the edge. It needed a savior. So first, the team brought in Hall of Fame coach Bill Parcells, and second, they used their number 1 pick on Washington State star Drew Bledsoe, the quarterback who blew scouts away at the NFL Combine. Jonathan Kraft said Bledsoe gave Patriots fans a reason to believe. He had a gun for an arm, he could fire it in there and place the ball perfectly. He had the confidence, as a number 1 pick, to make any throw on the field. In his second season, Bledsoe led the NFL in passing, and in just his 4th year in the league, he showed a dull franchise the light by leading the Patriots to the Super Bowl. They weren't able to top the Packers in that one, but this was a changing team, and Bledsoe was the centerpiece. In '97, Parcells had resigned, and in came Pete Carroll. The Patriots were still one of the better teams in the league, but couldn't get anywhere in the playoffs. So they fired Carroll and traded for Bill Belichick before the 2000 season began. Now, you know all that talk about how Belichick is careful with his spending, how he thinks twice about handing over massive contracts to players. Well, clearly with Bledsoe, Belichick was a believer. He must have had a belief that Bledsoe was their guy for the future. And when I say future, I mean 10 years. Bill Mr. Krabs Belichick handed Bledsoe an NFL record 10-year, $103 million contract in 2001. As the New York Times said at the time, this virtually guarantees he will spend his entire career with the New England Patriots. Elsewhere in the quarterback room, Bledsoe had a buddy, a kid he would have over for dinner quite often. Of course, he wasn't seen as a threat in the slightest. Bledsoe had the largest contract in NFL history. This kid was just a 6th-round pick. Even though they were friends, Bledsoe never thought Tom Brady was even going to be a starter in the league. During the second game of the 2001 season, Mo Lewis delivered the shot heard round the world. In came that 6th-round pick declared to ride the bench for his career, but this video isn't all about that 6th-round pick. It's about Bledsoe, who actually tried to keep playing during that game. Only problem was, he couldn't really tell his left from his right. So in the ambulance he went. Before they could get to the hospital, Bledsoe had passed out. A torn blood vessel behind his rib was pumping blood into his chest. The doctors feared he could die, and it took 2 days to stop the bleeding. Eventually, Bledsoe was declared okay and began his recovery back to behind center for the Patriots. Thing is, while he was gone, Tom Brady was telling teammates at the time that the $100 million man wasn't getting his job back. All his teammates could do was laugh that one off. But the Patriots started to win. By week 10, Bledsoe was cleared to play. But Belichick was going with the quarterback who gave them the best chance to win every week. And that player wasn't the old face of the franchise, it was the new one. In New England, the Bledsoe vs. Brady debate caught fire. Back then, Belichick's choice seemed a little crazy.
In any way, did you see this coming, Drew?
I'll just put it this way. I look forward to the chance to compete for my job.
The coaching staff had seen something in Tom Brady, but not everyone was on the same page. Even owner Robert Kraft said he felt heartbroken and didn't think it was fair. Still, he trusted Belichick to make the right choice. Obviously, every fiber in Bledsoe's body wanted to fight the decision, or even Belichick himself, but he chose to swallow the pill and be a good teammate. It's something that not anyone can do. To be honest, it's the type of situation that could have derailed the team if Bledsoe had treated it differently. He still showed up early and would be ready if his number was called. And out of all the moments, Brady went down in the AFC Championship. And in came the number 1 draft pick to send the Patriots once again to the Super Bowl. Even still, with the Patriots as 14-point underdogs, Belichick opted for the young Brady, and a dynasty was born. That offseason, Bledsoe was dealt to the Bills for a first-round pick. There he had one of his best seasons in years, and once again he was a Pro Bowler. 2 years later, in 2004, the Bills just barely missed the playoffs. With Bledsoe turning 33, the Bills released him in favor of their first-round pick, J.P. Lossman. Meanwhile, in New England, Tom Brady had just led the Patriots to their 3rd championship in 4 years. Bledsoe ended up reuniting with Parcells, this time on the Dallas Cowboys. In his first year, he guided the team to a 9-7 record, but didn't manage to make the playoffs. In 2006, his play had dipped, and once again, he was replaced by a younger quarterback. 26-year-old Tony Romo would lead the Cowboys for the next decade. That would be the 3rd and final time Bledsoe would be supplanted. After 14 years in the NFL, he called it quits. At the time of retirement, he ended up finishing with the 7th most passing yards ever. In 2011, he was voted into the Patriots Team Hall of Fame. Despite that, he didn't really have much of a connection with the franchise in retirement. He wanted to move on with the next stage in his life. Bledsoe's new dream actually sort of began when his old one ended. Back in 2001, after he was benched, he began drinking a lot of wine. And in retirement, he opened up the Doubleback Winery in Walla Walla, Washington. One of his wines was actually rated as one of the top 100 in the world. Want to know what's weird though? His winemaker for his labels is Josh McDaniels. Not the Patriots Josh McDaniels, some other Josh McDaniels. Also, Bledsoe took over as offensive coordinator for his 3 sons' high school football teams. His son John even walked on at Washington State, and Bledsoe's friendship with Brady has remained strong to this day. He believes Brady's attitude is what has set him apart after all these years. And he added that he has more respect for Brady than anybody, calling him the pinnacle of leadership, example, and work ethic. Nowadays, Bledsoe is steadily becoming known as the wine guy and not the man replaced by Brady. Despite all the success that came with the now 7-time Super Bowl champion, Bledsoe still looks back at his benching and says he'll never convince himself it was the right decision. No matter what he believes, his own impact on Patriots history is undeniable. In order for there to be a dynasty, they first had to become relevant. And Bledsoe, with his talent, pulled the Patriots out of the darkness. He undoubtedly made his mark on the franchise that now holds 6 Lombardi trophies. And he should be remembered for far more than just the events on September 23rd, 2001.